Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Hank Gilbert, nominee for United States Congress from Texas' 1st Congressional District.
Good evening. My name is Hank Gilbert, and I'm running for Congress in Texas's 1st Congressional District. I wanted to visit with you tonight to discuss the state of the race and address some specific issues with you that you may have seen my campaign address over the past few days. You have no doubt seen my campaign's race in the news for the sizable advertising buy we've purchased, or if you live in the district, you've likely seen it in heavy rotation on television. In that spot, we addressed the issue of my opponent taking lobbyist and special funded trips to places like Cairo and Ukraine, while East Texans struggle to afford insurance and health care. This is but one problem with my opponent when it comes to following his own agenda and not working for the interest of the people of East Texas. The brutal but uncomfortable fact is that we in East Texas must face we have a career politician who has failed us and abandoned our East Texas values as our congressman. Tonight, I want to speak directly to the people of my district, in particular to independents, conservatives, and Republicans who are tired of failed leadership that hasn't done anything for our district except make us the butt of jokes on late night television shows. You and I may disagree on any number of things, but we share a common set of East Texas values. And I believe that you will find we have more in common with each other than you think. I've been asked this question many times throughout the course of the campaign. Hank, what are East Texas values that you keep talking about? Well, for one, East Texas values are freedom of speech. Whether it's peacefully protesting for Black Lives Matter, protesting in support of local police, protesting for or against the president, or even for or against a political candidate, I know that we agree that every American is afforded the right to peacefully assemble and express their freedom of speech as guaranteed in the First Amendment. However, I also believe that we all oppose those that riot, loot, destroy property, or try to intimidate others as a form of protest. I, like you, believe that those persons should be treated as the criminals that they are and prosecuted to the greatest extent of the law. Prayer and religion are also East Texas values. Most of us, growing up, were brought up in religious households. I proudly call myself a Christian and work daily to live up to God's expectations of me. I have no desire or intent to restrict religious speech in any way. I will always defend an individual's right to worship as they please. I also believe in our Constitution and the Founding Fathers' belief in the separation of church and state. While I believe in protecting the rights of an individual's religious freedoms, I also believe in protecting the rights of those individuals that are non-believers. Second Amendment rights are yet another East Texas value. I'm a lifelong rancher and gun owner. While I own several shotguns for quail hunting and target shooting, I also own a couple of rifles to kill feral hogs, skunks, armadillos, and poisonous snakes, all the problem animals that rob profits from most agricultural operations like mine. I don't, however, own a machine gun type of assault weapon with multiple rounds for this purpose because I don't believe it's necessary. I also don't think that it should be easy for someone to get their hands on assault type weapons with high capacity rounds that can dispense up to 100 bullets within a matter of seconds. I believe in everyone's right to own guns for sport and defense per the Second Amendment. But I believe we, as responsible East Texans, have enough common sense to know the difference. Ethics is an East Texas value that has been taught to us our entire lives. Respect for others, politeness, truthfulness, and a strong work ethic are values that we pride ourselves in and teach our children. My opponent, however, has somehow forgotten or misplaced these values since becoming a member of the U.S. Congress. My opponent spent time in the Ukraine, paid for at the expense of shady Ukrainian businessmen and government influences. My opponent's trip to the Ukraine came in sequence with trips to the Ukraine by former Texas Governor Rick Perry when he was allegedly making shady deals with Ukrainian energy moguls. My opponent also fails to report whether or not he has paid off a $300,000 bank mortgage on his personal home, which disappeared from his annual U.S. House ethics report around the same time he returned from his Ukrainian trip. My opponent, the self-proclaimed poorest member of Congress, is also paying for numerous Netflix and iTunes accounts, OnStar navigation system, 2 storage unit rentals, and his personal automobile insurance with campaign donations from his congressional campaign account, all of which are not permissible to do according to the House Ethics Committee, which would explain why he has had so many ethics complaints filed against him. Those are just a few of Congressman Gohmert's ethical dilemmas. Honesty and ethics are but one of the many East Texas values that he has abandoned by the wayside as he jet sets to London and Cairo on the dime of special interest who want to keep consumer prices high and consumer protections low. Helping our fellow man is one of our greatest East Texas values. We used to call it Christian charity. But like the Bible says in Matthew chapter 25, verse 40, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of these, the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. It is incumbent upon us, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or otherwise, to take care of our fellow man. Every religion on earth teaches this. My King James Bible tells me this. And in East Texas, we do this. Every time someone has a car wreck or needs an organ transplant, or someone dies unexpectedly in a small town with no family or insurance, you see those gallon plastic jugs or coffee cans asking for donations and funds set up at local banks to benefit the families. And our people give generously. The cold, hard reality is that no one should be bankrupted by medical bills, and that affordable health care and lower cost prescription drugs need to be within reach of every American. No East Texan should have to rely upon a plastic jug in a gas station to pay for their medical bills. I support a true public option in strengthening the Affordable Care Act, not eliminating it like my opponent believes. While I don't support government-controlled health care, I do believe that every American should have access to affordable health care. That's taking care of your fellow man. I support reducing the cost of prescription drugs by passing legislation to allow the government the ability to negotiate with drug manufacturers on the price of prescription drugs. I will author and fight to pass legislation to remove the middlemen from the prescription drug industry, which alone will drastically reduce drug prices. My opponent opposes such measures. I also support patent reform that prevents big pharmaceutical companies from using loopholes in patent laws to extend patents for drugs by making changes to the formulas that don't actually improve the quality of the medications. This prolongs the ability to manufacture generic versions of the same drug at a reduced cost to the consumers. I support regulating the price of drugs funded by public dollars from state or federal educational funds or with other federal research tax dollars. If the government is going to give these companies millions of taxpayer dollars for the development of these drugs, the federal government should be able to recoup those dollars through price regulations on behalf of the American consumers and taxpayers. An East Texas value for a U.S. congressman to exhibit would be to figure out how to fix health care rather than obstruct the process. He should not have voted against protecting pre-existing conditions over 60 times. He also should not have voted against allowing the government to negotiate prescription drug costs with manufacturers. Instead, he prefers to relegate East Texans to the plastic jug in the gas station instead of authoring legislation to fix the problem after 16 years in Congress and nearly 30 years as a part of the political establishment. His failure to act not only affects the financial stability of families, it also puts a tremendous financial strain on our medical community. Under his lack of leadership for our district, 4 hospitals in our district have been forced to close due to financial constraints, primarily because a large part of our population lacks affordable health care options. Instead of doing something to help, he has taken to the House floor to bemoan any number of black helicopter conspiracies, so far-fetched that even QAnon followers would have trouble believing them. Aside that, he takes to the cable news squawk box or talk radio and screams fears to promote a non-existent German powder that instantly kills COVID-19. None of these antics will fix healthcare or reopen our closed hospitals. They won't bring high-speed internet access or better cell service to rural East Texas, which my opponent consistently votes against. It won't break up Suddenlink, one of Louis's largest contributors, from their stranglehold monopoly on certain services in our district. My opponent's behavior will not bring jobs to East Texas. It won't reopen our closed rural hospitals. It won't feed the 28% of children in our district who live in poverty, or the 23% of our seniors making decisions between rent or food because they can't make it on Social Security alone. By the way, my opponent voted to support the current administration's ruling to proposed budget to destroy Social Security and Medicare as we know it. And you should know that's not rhetoric. Those are facts. In an effort to not only preserve Social Security into eternity, my proposal will do away with the Social Security cap, making it mandatory that earners pay Social Security tax on all of their earnings, not just the first $137,000 earned, which is currently required. While the vast majority of our population pays this on every dollar earned, the wealthy do not, and that needs to change. Houston Chronicle, which has endorsed a lot of Republicans this cycle, endorsed me and called Congressman Gilbert, quote, baddie. Folks, this is where the rubber meets the road. We need someone who represents us and who represents our values in a way that brings positive change to our district. I'm not a liberal ideologue. I was raised like you were, grew up with the same values as you, and I intend to go to Washington to get something done for you. I don't care about getting on fake TV or talk radio like my opponent. I care about protecting and enhancing Medicare and Medicaid. I care about health care, lower prescription drug costs, helping family farmers, small businesses, and agribusiness. I stand for term limits. 8 years and I'm gone, whether you like it or not. I will go to Washington, keep my head down, and perform all the constituent services you need, and some that you haven't had before, like public town hall meetings. Louis hasn't held a public town hall meeting since his first term in 2005. I pledged to hold 2 town halls per year in each of the 12 counties in our district. That's a minimum of 24 opportunities per year that you will have to ask whatever questions that you need answered. I'll listen to you, and I'll work to properly address your issues and concerns. I will focus on bipartisan solutions to difficult problems and work to author and pass meaningful legislation and appropriations that will impact East Texas and American agriculture in a positive way. For a rural district, going to Congress isn't about getting on TV or endlessly speaking on an empty House floor, or downright abusing the system and violating campaign finance law by spending your campaign contributions on Netflix accounts and car insurance when your campaign doesn't own a vehicle. It's about being the voice for and getting positive things done for the people of your district, just like previous members from Texas have done. Members like Sam Rayburn and Charlie Stenholm and Max Sandlin and Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Early voting has already begun. If you've not yet voted, I ask you to please get out and vote. Since there's no straight ticket voting this year, I ask you to vote all the way down the ballot. When it comes to the third race on your ballot for U.S. Congress, however, I humbly ask for your vote. Regardless of who ultimately becomes the 46th president of the United States, I'll hold them to their promises to rule America and to Texas, and on the issues of importance to each and every one of us who share that common sense set of East Texas values. I'll work with them to improve our daily lives, lift children in our district out of poverty, make affordable insurance available to all of our residents, and lower healthcare and prescription drug costs. When it comes to fighting for our shared East Texas values, folks, I don't give a damn who's president. I'll hold them accountable to us, from taxes to insurance to healthcare. It isn't about the issues on which we disagree, but about the common ground we know we can find to improve our daily lives and the lives of our fellow man. And while protecting our freedoms, exercise common sense to bring positive change for East Texas that reflects our unique common values. Get out and vote early if you can. If you can't, Election Day is Tuesday, November the 3rd. Thank you for your time tonight. May God bless America, and God bless East Texas.